treasure of the notes. You can't take your own.
That's right. Hey, folks, it is September the 22nd, and today we're going to go over chapters 26 and 27 out of our book. And this has to do with, of course, the Arabian Peninsula, the Arabic Bedouins, the early life of Muhammad, and just some of the events going on in that region of the world. Now, sometimes when you study Western civilization, historians will put they'll put like how's the way to put this, like the history of Egypt and the history of, say, like the Ottoman Empire and Islam in with it. We have to have some of this regarding our European focus because this is going to have a major impact on Europe and later on America, even today. So makes a lot of sense. Good to know about people. So there we have it. So our terms on the board are Arabia's geography, Bedouins, Mecca, Muhammad's early life. Probably going to mispronounce it, the Hijra or Hijra, and the return to Mecca. Has everybody had enough time to go over the chapter? All right, cool. All right, we'll give you a few minutes to discuss the following terms with the people sitting next to you, and then we're going to go over today's images and find out what this is all about. All right, you may begin. So, talk to your partners. I'm going to get my images up.
No. The what? And where? Where? And finishing? Where? I brought everyone. Okay. Really big. I'm gonna wait for him to know I can.
Everyone has a vitamin geometry. Oh no! Oh no! What was that? Wow! I'm gonna get beat with that here. What? More like a baby.
And then I'm here.
You should wear the mask and the still stuff.
Yeah, for the like the long pointed
Like Dr. Mask. Who knows? Who knows? Talking with your neighbor. I am my own. I know, I am my own. Yeah, but it's true.
Well, you should make a neighbor and talk to these guys. Think about Halloween drunk or something, but
Halloween?
But it's the
Yeah.
thought that counts.
Yeah, the thought that counts. Sounds a little off topic to me. It's not even October yet.
It's still close enough to the spooky month that the spookiness is already leaking.
Spookiness.
Spoofiness.
Don't try it. I'm more excited.
Spooky month.
Okay.
I got this spooky gun.
All right, kids. So, hey, I only got a few images today, but I'll go ahead and show them to you. So, all right. So this is the Arabian Peninsula. Your book is correct to point out that it connects Africa over there to the west to Asia, or you call it Eurasia. It's kind of divided. So yeah, it's mostly desert land. There's to the south, it's very rocky. It's all hot. Along the western coast, along the coastland, you'll find land that's pretty fertile for farming. This is true for a lot of the area in this world. Like North Africa, a lot of it's like that too. Like most of the farming is done close to the coast where the climate's nicer. But as you move inland, hot desert, you can't really farm. So of course there's scattered oases where the people who live there for centuries on end have used as watering holes for their livestock and things like that. Your book's also correct to point out that these people lived a lot like the ancient Hebrews did, a very nomadic people who mostly relied on their herds. During this time, we see something that's kind of a new kid on the block to the area, and it's camels. Camels, believe it or not, actually didn't come from this area. They actually come from Western China. But trade caravans over time managed to bring them into Arabia and North Africa. And they're very good for the climate there. They're good at storing water. They're strong. They serve the purposes there very well. And so it's kind of hard to think of that part of the world without camels. So yeah, the Bedouin people. So Bedouins are still around today. They're typically nomadic people, known for, of course, herding. Before Islam, they were, for the most part, you could think of them as kind of like animistic people, kind of like Native Americans. They had belief in like spirits, like nature spirits and things like that. They had their own tribal customs. Even to this day, village elders were basically the government. And you can think of it kind of like a tribal oligarchy in a sense, where a few of the elders would kind of dictate what would happen to everyone else. Very family-based, because that's what a tribe is. A tribe's like an extension of your family. They still practiced, of course, slavery. They traveled very far in trader caravans, especially we're going to see later on in the Ottoman Empire, and even before that, during the caliphates. These folks are going to have trade networks all the way through India and China, and then back through Africa down to sub-Saharan Africa, in the southern part of Africa. So they're going to have very vast trade networks, access to a lot of things that Europeans could hardly, like their kings, could hardly dream of. But at the same time, in many other ways, they were very poor, of course, because they normally didn't have a lot of what we would think of as civilized cities. But Bedouins aren't the same as, of course, like your book points out, the more sedentary Arabic people that were more city-based, agriculture, and setting up trade hubs. So Mecca had been a trading city for a very long time. It was also considered a holy city. What was this called? This building here, the Kaaba, it's still up today. And Muslims from around the world come once a year on a pilgrimage to it. There's different stories about it, that there's, like a black rock from heaven. Some believe that it was the house built by Adam in their culture, from back in Adam and Eve. It used to be filled with religious idols from various religions and cultures. And so people would come and worship in it. Polytheist, this is a very normal thing for them. People who believe in more than one God, to basically adopt a lot of different religious icons and things like that into their own belief. The Greeks did this, the Romans did this. It was a very normal thing. So if they came across like another religion with more gods, they thought, oh, cool, that's more gods. Of course, we're going to see that for monotheists, especially Abrahamic monotheists, such as Islam, this is going to be seen as a very, very bad thing. So we don't have any images from Muhammad because, it's banned in their religion, and they take a very high offense to it, right? So when Muhammad was a young man, he was very poor. Of course, he eventually, however, he's going to marry a very wealthy widow, and because of that, he's going to be a very successful merchant, and he's going to have some free time on his hands. He's going to focus his life on spiritual matters. When he was young, he spent his time in caravans, and he would come across Jewish people, Christians, and an ancient Persian religion called Zoroastrianism, which believed in essentially two gods, like one was good, one was evil. And they had a lot of other little things to it, but it was a religion that didn't get that big because, from what I understand, it was a religion that wasn't made for normal people. It was a religion made for like super rich people, essentially. But I can't speak with a lot of authority on it. I don't know that much about it. This is the cave where he had his visions. Let's see, what was the name of that cave? Anybody remember? Here, I got it down here. So this is the cave, the Hira. So this is where he went, and he said that he heard from the archangel Gabriel, supposedly gave him this vision where he was told that he was the last prophet of God, and he was also, even though he was illiterate, he was given the power to write the Quran, which is like the most sacred text of Islamic people. And so he took this text and then he proclaimed it to the people of Mecca. A lot of people didn't like that, so they're going to kick him out of Mecca, which is here, and he's going to flee with his family and his followers to Medina. And this is called the Hijra. And so during this time period, he's going to become the ruler of Medina. And Muslims have belief that during this time he did a lot of great works. Some believe that he actually was swept up and brought to Jerusalem, and then he was by God and then brought back to Medina. And because they believe this, that's why Muslims find Jerusalem as a very holy city to them, and why even today there's a disagreement over who has the biggest stake in Jerusalem, the Jewish people or the Muslim people, because they both find it sacred. And of course, so do Christians. So that's why Jerusalem is a city that's so disputed over how things go over there. You have the three major religions of the world, or monotheistic religions of the world, and they're vying for it. So it's a pretty sticky issue. What else was I going to say? So after some time in Medina, he's going to spend some time living in his Bedouin roots. So your book's correct to point out that as a people, they were nomadic raiders. And so he's going to take part as a warlord, and he's going to defeat other tribes. And as he defeats them, he's also going to convert them to Islam. And so he's going to amass a very large army of followers by doing this. And eventually, he's going to make a trip back to Mecca. He's going to lay siege to the city, but the city's going to turn over peacefully instead of, anyone get slaughtered, I guess. And when he comes in, he's going to smash the idols there, And this is Mecca, Medina, and then Jerusalem are going to be seen as the holy cities of Islam, especially Mecca. So, so the Bedouin people believe that they're descendants from Ishmael. You know, he was like the first son of Abraham, right? So they believe that they are the children of Abraham, just like the Jews do. So that's why we call Islam, Christianity, and Judaism the Abrahamic religions, because they all tie back their roots to Abraham. And of course, they believe that Ishmael is actually buried, I think, in Mecca or Medina, something like that. So they see their roots going very far back. It's very similar roots. The Quran has many stories that you will find in the Old Testament of the Bible, but different. We're going to talk about that a bit later when we talk about the Quran a little bit, right? Because I'm not trying to like teach you about religion to make you part of that religion. I'm trying to inform you about people who live in the world. But yeah, like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are different. Because if you like, people often say, well, they worship the same God, and it's not necessarily true, because the way Christians see God is different than how like Muslims see God, and so forth. A lot of the Bible stories that are in Islam are similar to Christianity and Jewish scriptures, but they are different. And so there's similarities, but they're different. So you can't just say that they're the same thing, essentially. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So just so you know. All right. So let's go ahead up here and go a bit about this. This is all going to be important because this area is sacred to them. They're going to see it as their place, but also they're going to move on to that third sacred city, Jerusalem. And when they move on to Jerusalem later, everything's going to be fine for a little while. The Christians are going to be okay, kind of okay, with Muslims being in charge of the Holy Land. But we're going to see that they're going to have a change of leadership. And when the Muslims have a change of leadership, they're going to essentially stop pilgrims from being able to come. And then we're going to have to kick off with the Crusades. So all this stuff is building tension, but eventually the tension's going to become war. And we'll talk about the cost for that when we get to Crusades, which is probably going to be like a month or so. But we'll get there. All right, so Arabia's geography. So what kind of landmass is that?
A peninsula.
A peninsula. Oh gosh, now I gotta spell it. All right, so close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough. All right, a peninsula.
It'll work.
Yeah, that's right. Between Africa. That's right, and Asia. What's its climate like?
Lots of desert.
Yeah, lots of desert.
And then you have spots of oases.
Yeah, with the oasis. How do you say oasis in plural? Is it oases? Oases?
Oasis.
That's oasis.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Side.
We're just gonna kind of leave it there. We're just gonna say that there's one for now. Okay. All right. So
Oasis.
now here's the thing. Geography always shapes culture. If you remember last year, we talked about how geography shaped Greek people. Lots of islands, lots of water. Okay, so that's out in the sea. So they're seafaring people. But the islands have a lot of mountains, so the land is like hard to be on. So once again, they're pushed out in the sea. They do a lot of fishing, a lot of trading, and a lot of piracy. It's the same with their Bedouins. The geography shapes what they do. They can't really spend a lot of time farming. There's not that much farmland. But they can trade, and they can herd sheep to what grasslands they can find. And so that shapes who they are. They're nomadic people. So, but nomadic people and mountain living people are both usually tough fighters. It's one of those things that goes hand in hand. So I guess if you had mountainous nomadic people, they would be like extra tough. But I can't think of anything like that. All right. So who were the Bedouins? I just kind of said they were what kind of people? Nomads. And that means they have no home. They just move around. Nomadic, traders. Yeah, well, they're nomadic. They're wanderers. It's the same thing. Now, like, yeah, they lived in Arabia. Of course, a lot of them were also kind of pushing up into Mesopotamia, definitely North Africa and stuff like that. So, you know, they lived in caravans. Spent their time. I already said trading. Let's see. Trading. And it was very normal. That's one thing, even about modern nomads, is raiding parties, going out, attacking, stealing, and then having a revenge raid against them. It's a normal thing. Now, they didn't go in conquering places or wiping out villages. If you remember I don't know if I talked, later on we'll talk about Genghis Khan. That's how the nomads in Mongolia were too. They wouldn't try to kill everybody. They would go in, steal some cows, kill a couple of guys, take some prisoners, and go away. So this is like a lot of nomadic Native Americans did the same thing. Very common form warfare for nomadic people. Spend time raiding, herding. What about their morals, right? Like their customs?
They showed hospitality to strangers and also faithfulness to diet and friendship.
Yeah, good host. And that's a reoccurring theme in this part of the world. The Greeks, that was one of the big parts of their culture, being a good host. You could find the same thing with Hebrew people. You could find the same thing with these folks. That was a big important thing, is to be a good host, right? But yeah, but sometimes hot-headed. No. All right, so what was this Mecca? What was that about?
It's a city.
A city?
It's a city about 50 miles away from that city.
Okay, yeah. So, what made the city so special?
It's a main place of activity.
City of trade. What else was it?
Religion.
Yeah, and religion. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, your book's correct to point out that people from all kinds of tribes would go there. They call it kind of like a peace treaty or a time of truce. They go in, do their trading, do their worship, and then they go back on their trade caravans. See, this is also going to be home of Muhammad. There's lots of ways to spell that. No, but that's where he got his name from. And most sacred city to Muslims. So, you know, if you ever see something on the news and they're talking about Mecca, it's usually has to do with they're having their time of pilgrimage there and stuff like that. So, all right. So, Muhammad's early life. So, what was that about? He was a guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a guy.
He was very
He wasn't a
He was an
sheep.
orphan. at
He was an
first.
orphan,
He was
yeah.
an orphan.
So, little bitty orphan.
He was a very poor man. He was
At first, he was a shepherd,
Yeah.
and then he became a camel driver.
So we're gonna put arrow here, orphan, to shepherd, to camel driver. All right, and yeah, so it's that time when he's camel driver, he comes across these other religions and like learning from them. And so, and then what happens? How does he strike it rich?
He marries a woman named Kajia.
Oh gosh.
She's rich, so he gets
Okay, yeah.
he gets wealthy after he marries her and becomes a prosperous merchant.
That's right. So marries a rich widow, makes it bigly. All right, so becomes a rich merchant. So good for him, right? All right, so he's a wealthy merchant, but he's having what we call an existential crisis. He understands that there's something bigger out there than himself, but he can't quite figure it out. So how does he try to help figure it out?
He went into the wilderness by himself.
Yes. So, kind of like they were talking about, like he took cues possibly from like the ancient Christian desert fathers, like those early Christians who'd go live out alone, kind of like John the Baptist, I guess, and just in like fasting and stuff like that, and hoping for revelation. So you're right. And it was during that time he wrote the Quran. All right, so that's their version of the Bible. And all that. But we'll talk about it later. There's like a lot of big differences too. Like there's Quran's not only a religious text, it's also, you could think of it as like a constitutional text, because it also outlines how their government's supposed to be, all the way down to taxes and things like slavery and stuff like that. So, all right, moving right along. But the people in Mecca didn't really take too kindly to this. They didn't want to have their idols smashed. So they said, hey, we like our statues. What did they do? They gave them out. Yeah, they kicked them out. They're like, you can't smash our precious, precious idols. All right. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna get colors. All right, so see, Muhammad fled to Medina, and what happened when he was there?
There's only one thing that's discussed.
Take refuge.
Did he take refuge? Yeah, he did. And
People there, like they had like some like sense of his religion.
that's right. Yeah, so he became a leader there. He's going to amass an army. And he's going to take it home. He's going to return to Mecca. And he's going to spend a good amount of his life after he returns to Mecca expanding his kingdom in a sense. But he's not going to live too long as a ruler during this time. But it's going to be a very effective religion, converting a lot of Arabic people there, because this part of the world, for the most part, have been kind of ignored by like great powers such as the Greeks and the Romans and the Byzantines. They didn't see it as a very profitable region. Saw it as kind of wild and stuff like that. But and another thing too is that a lot of things like Judaism didn't really focus on spreading its religion. It's not what you would call a proselytizing religion. So they weren't focused on sending out missionaries and converting people to be Jewish people. Whereas Christianity, on the other hand, especially like in North Africa around there, a lot of the Christians that came in were like those like Vandals and some of the Goths who were Aryan Christians, those Germanic barbarians who moved in as invaders. Whereas this was a lot of still part of the Eastern Byzantine Empire. And so they were a different kind of Christianity. They were Orthodox Christians. And so you had a lot of disagreements among Christians. And so that, again, there were missionaries going down here, but not that much activity. So it found fertile soil to spread a new religion, especially one that had a lot of parts of their culture already in it. Like, oh, okay. So it kind of took off like wildfire. So after he returns to Mecca, what's he going to do? First thing that he gets back, he's going to smash himself some.
Those idols.
That's right. So he's going to rid the city of pagan idols, and he's going to unite a lot of the Arabs. Now, don't get the word Arabic and Muslim mixed up. Arabic is like a culture and a race. Islam's a religion. Somebody can be Muslim and not be Arabic, but Arabic is the sacred. They consider it the sacred language, right? So, but there are, like, even to this day, Christians in that part of the world who only speak Arabic. For example, in Egypt, they have the Coptic Church. It's been around for 2,000 years, but they speak Arabic. So when they hold church services, they call God Allah, because it's the word for God in Arabic, right? So, so don't get it mixed up. Yeah, hey, I'll be out tomorrow. So no live stream tomorrow. I am going to have something for you to do, and I'm between two things. I don't know if they're both. Well, no. Okay, yeah. I have a letter between two monks about what would happen if they came across alien people, kind of. So, written in the 900s. So, something to think about. Something. Yes. All right. Talk to you later, kids. So yeah, it's gonna be like a summary.
It's gonna be good.